Hello! Welcome to the special presentation brought to you by Rollverse. My name is Justin, and today I want to talk to you about the recently released Unearthed Arcana playtest number 5. Specifically, we are going to talk about the Sorcerer class and the new features they added to both the class and the Draconic Sorcery subclass. Now what I'm going to go over in this video in particular are the newly added sorcerer spells, the adjustments to the meta magic options, and my favorite aspects of the retooled subclass. So without further ado, let's just jump right into it. Now for context, I playtested this material up through level 10. Now there are a lot of other features between levels 11 through 20 that I didn't get to experience, but we may end up touching on that in another video. First and foremost, let's talk about the new spells. With this UA, we actually get 4 new spells for the sorcery class, but I'm going to focus on 3 in particular: Sorcerer's Burst, Sorcerer's Vitality, and Sorcery Incarnate. Now, Sorcerer's Burst is a fantastic cantrip that you have access to immediately at level 1. This is something great to just kind of keep in your back pocket because it's a ranged spell attack that scales with you as you level up, dealing more damage when you hit levels 5, 11, and 17 respectively. It's a 1d6 for the damage, but this spell specifically states that if you roll a 6 on the damage die, you can add an additional die to the attack, stacking up to a max of your spellcasting modifier, which in this case is Charisma. The other great aspect of this spell is that you can choose the damage type from the list. And as you can see, psychic damage is on there. This is an amazing option because if you ever run into those creatures that have resistances to things like cold, fire, acid, you can utilize the psychic damage to get the full effect. Now, I think this is a great addition to what some would consider a very limited cantrip list for sorcerers. The next spell you get is the Sorcerer's Vitality. This is a 3rd level spell that you get access to at 5th level. When you use the spell, you can roll 2d6 plus your Charisma modifier to regain that amount of HP or hit points. To me, this spell is, honestly a waste of time. It's essentially a worse version of Cure Wounds from the Paladin class because you're spending a 3rd level spell slot to get slightly better, effects or results than a regular healing potion, which is commonly 2d4 plus 2. When you finally get those sweet 3rd level spells, I personally would much rather use it for spells like Fireball or Fireball, or possibly, like, depending on the situation and how comfortable you are, Fireball. Right? But this spell allows you to remove the blind, deafened, and poison condition, which I think is an added benefit. But to me, how often do you actually encounter these conditions in combat? Not really often or ever. And if for whatever reason you do end up having one of these conditions put on you, if you have a cleric or paladin in your group, they can easily take care of that for you. Now for me, I think a better retooling of the spell could be to bring it down to like a 2nd level slot. I think you can keep the same health stipulation, but maybe you lose the other conditions. But more so, what I'd rather see is that I think if you took this away from being a spell altogether and made it more of a class feature. Now, the way the spell reads specifically is that you draw on your innate magic to fill yourself with vitality. Now, to me, that sounds a lot more reminiscent to Lay on Hands from the Paladin class, which makes perfect sense because sorcerers are innately magic. Their souls are intertwined with magic from their birth in some shape or form, so it makes a whole heck of a lot of sense that they would, as they grow stronger, be able to tap into that well, tap into that magical weave, and pull energy out to heal themselves. This is a reflavoring that I think could be added and actually be a pretty good utility for the class overall. The last spell I do want to touch on is the Sorcery Incarnate spell. Now for me, this is also a complete and utter waste of time. In my playthrough, I cast the spell a sum total of 0 times, because for a 5th level spell, it's just a waste of a spell slot, to be completely honest with you. I mean, for me, this should be knocked down to a 3rd level, like if I was getting my way, but I could realistically seeing it being a 4th level spell. I mean, even though you get the ability to regain 1d4 sorcery points, the benefits aren't there for me, especially when you're competing with other spells like Cone of Cold for the damage, or, you know, Far Step for the utility and movement. I do, however, like the other aspects of the spells, such as having advantage on all spell attacks and being able to cast multiple meta magic options, provided you have the sorcery points, which, I mean, if you're going to be casting 2 at a time, you're going to burn through those sorcery points really fast. But like I said, overall, it just seems like still like a high cost in my book. Speaking of meta magic, let's get into the changes that were made there. So one of the biggest changes that was made in this UA is to the twinned option. They removed the limitation of being only able to cast using spells targeting one creature, which is great. That's a plus. But they destroyed the casting economy. They actually cited in their revision that the current version is too overpowered, even though it really isn't. But now, instead of being able to cast a spell and twin it immediately, you have to wait until your next turn to twin the spell you previously cast. So in a combat situation, in initiative, this is just going to destroy your action economy, because instead of getting the benefit of twinning the spell immediately on your first turn, first action, and then being able to do something the next time, you're now essentially delaying that action by the initiative order, and by the time that comes back to you, you may not even want to twin that previous spell, because a lot of things change in between one PC's turn to the next. They did add a few other spells, or meta magic options I should say, such as the transmuted spell option from Tasha's, and honestly, if you read it, this is a great addition, just because spending 1 point you can change the damage type. I think that's an amazing feature. And they also allowed you to have access to more meta magic options in the class, so thank you for that. In this UA, you're now able to choose 3 options at level 2 instead of 2, and you can actually swap out these meta magic options one at a time at each long rest. So instead of being stuck with 2, you can kind of change, mix and match. You then gain an additional 3 options when you hit level 13. So you have a total of 6 instead of the traditional 4. I think this is fantastic. This is absolutely fantastic, because it allows you to try more options instead of confining yourself to, the 2 options you choose at level 2. I think this is going to help develop the character overall, and I think it's going to help benefit the story, because it makes a lot of sense that, again, your innate magic user has more options and more ability to do things with magic over time, instead of just being stuck in this box of saying, yeah, I can twin the spell, or I can quicken it, or just twin and heighten. It gives you a lot more essence to that character and flushes them out. Finally, I do want to talk about the updates listed in the renamed Draconic Sorcery subclass. A few things that are changed here from the traditional Draconic Bloodline subclass, most notably the Draconic Resilience. Now your base AC is flat 10 plus your Charisma modifier and your Dex modifier, instead of how it was before, where it was a flat 13 plus your Dex. This is absolutely a huge improvement, especially because it kicks in right before any ability score increases, so it allows you as the PC to actually have a fighting chance to kind of place your points where you want them to go. For me, for example, at level 10, I had a base AC of 18, and that's without any shields or armor, and if you throw on a reaction cast shield on top of that, you're now looking at 23, which is a pretty formidable AC even at level 10. This is honestly a great addition, but I would much rather see this moved over to a class feature rather than a subclass feature, just because it mirrors, a lot of the unarmored defense trait that barbarians and monks get, and especially in a class like sorcerer where we don't have any proficiencies with armor or shield. And even if you do choose to wear that, not only are you taking those disadvantages, but you don't have the ability to cast a spell anymore. This is an absolute must. But these are just some of my takes on the new UA. Let us know what your thoughts are. If you share the same views as me, or if you differ, put them in the comments below. The more we talk and converse about it, the better chance they have of listening to us and possibly even implementing these changes into the game we love. Please like, subscribe, and follow us for more content. We're going to be releasing other videos of the UA and breakdowns of the other classes over the next few weeks. But yeah, I appreciate you listening. I appreciate you watching this video, and more importantly, we will see you in the next one.